Good afternoon and welcome to the Global Roundtable organized by the Global Foundation for Democracy and Development. Today we have the pleasure of the company of Mr. Ambassador from the Republic of Angola, Mr. Ismael Gaspar Martins. It's a great pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for coming.
It's a great pleasure to be with you all here this morning as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. And also with us is Margaret Hayward, our representative to the United Nations system and also our manager of communications and outreach. Thank you, Margaret, for being with us. And before we start, as always, we'd like to talk a little bit about the country whose representative is here with us today. So we'll talk a little bit about the Republic of Angola. Angola is located in southern Africa between Namibia and Democratic Republic of the Congo, bordering the Atlantic Ocean, but as well bordering with the Republic of the Congo and Zambia. The area of the country is approximately twice the size of the United Kingdom, and it is 1,246,700 square kilometers. And it includes as well the exclave of Cabinda. The climate and terrain is mostly semi-arid. It's a narrow coastal plain area, vast interior plateaus and tropical rainforest. Natural resources are mainly petroleum, diamonds, iron ore, phosphates, copper, feldspar, gold, bauxite and uranium. A very, very minerally rich country. Land use, arable land, is only 2.7%. Permanent crops, only 0.2%, and the rest of the area is 97%. The biggest environmental challenges of Angola are soil erosion, desertification, deforestation of tropical rainforest, water pollution, and insufficient supplies of potable water. It's a very, very varied ethnically. It's a country with a lot of ethnic groups, very diversified. There is a Ovimbundu group that occupies 37% of population, Kimbundu 25%, Bakongo 13%, Mestizo, which is a mixed European and native African 2%, European 1%, and other 22%. The official language is Portuguese, but also other African languages are spoken. The religion is 47% indigenous beliefs, Roman Catholic 38%, and Protestant 15%. Life expectancy is around 55 years. A total fertility rate is about 5.5 children per each woman. Infant mortality is 84 per 1,000 live births. This is the estimate of 2012. And it's ranked the 8th highest in the world. Literacy is 70%, the capital is Luanda, population is 18 million. Median age is around 18 years. Population growth rate is about 2.8%. The economy of Angola has experienced one of the fastest growing rates in the world, averaging around 18%. Oil production contributes approximately 85% of GDP. Diamond exports account for 5% of GDP. As a result of global recession and decreased global prices for oil and diamonds, the GDP of Angola declined to 2.4% in 2009 and then again to 3.4% in 2010. While the majority of the population is really dependent on subsistence agriculture, half of the nation's food is still imported. Labor force is mainly in agriculture, 85%, and then industry and services, 15%. 40% of all population is below poverty line. Urban population amounts to 59% of inhabitants. Talking about the history of the country, it's important to mention that the country is rebuilding after a 27-year civil war, which concluded in 2002. The onset of the civil war followed independence from Portugal in 1975. Ongoing civil unrest occurred between the Popular Movement of Liberation of Angola Party and the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola Party. As a result of this humanitarian tragedy, up to 1.5 million people may have lost their lives, and about 4 million people have been displaced. So much of the nation's infrastructure still remains damaged by the devastating effects of the 27-year war. Since 2005, the government has been reliant on international credit lines to rebuild the country's infrastructure. Landmines are as well a big problem. So, Mr. Ambassador, we try to give a resume of a country that's relatively young, but also very rich in economic resources, and has had a very turbulent history, but also a very exciting and interesting modern development. Is there something in particular that you would like to add to this description in general, or something you would like to highlight?
Well, I would say you have done a beautiful, you've done your research quite nicely. It contains most of the basic facts on Angola. Just keep in mind one thing. There are a number of statistics on Angola which unfortunately are not very, very fine-tuned, meaning a country which has been, as you said, at war for quite some time. It means that quite a good number of chunks of the territory have been isolated for a number of years, and they have been, with the peace, brought back to the mainland. And there are a number of developments which continue to take place every day. Even I myself, I learn of developments sitting here,
Right.
in New York. But basically, the description that you have, made, it's a beautiful one. Let me just say again, you said that Angola is twice, United Kingdom is also twice the size of Texas. Just to give of
Another point of view,
perspective as far as
yes.
the size of the country. The resources, I think you have covered them nicely, and that's what it is. Okay, so let's talk.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for that. So let's talk about what Angola is doing right now. What is the current president, José Eduardo dos Santos, doing in a situation right now to promote the democratic development of the country?
That's right. Well, the development of democracy in Angola has been something which has been done even during the most difficult times. Let me say that we were doing democracy, practicing democracy, even with a group which was still waging war, and a very brutal war, but we agreed to talk, because democracy is about talking, is about dialoguing, it's about doing things together to improve situations. So President Eduardo dos Santos, who has been in power since he was very young when he was brought to power.
He's been how many years, right?
He's been for about 30 some years.
30 some years, right?
Yes, he came into power in 1979, and there have been 3 elections so far. The last one just last year, or rather just this year, in August, and with the participation of the opposition growing. So we have today a parliament with a very active opposition, very active opposition. And the discussions in Parliament, especially on the major decisions for the country, are taken on the basis of a real dialogue with everybody. We have the young Angola. It's a very young country. The population is very young.
The age is 18 years.
18 years,
Really
so
young
they are young.
country, yes.
And of course, the youth is very, very, very dynamic, critical,
Yes.
creative,
Yes, yes.
and it's also something that we very much like to see. That's what a country is all
Yes.
about. A country is about what it's going to be in the future, what perspective it brings to its main population. And again, they are young, they can dream.
Yeah. But they're also pushing forward in a way,
Very
and,
much so.
and helping the democracy
so.
move forward
Very
with
much
their...
so. Very much so. When they don't get their demands where they should in the organizations, they go out in the streets.
Right.
And they demonstrate, and they voice their demands in a more, youth-like way.
Yes, yes, we've seen that all over the world, yes, yes. Well, Margaret has another question for you.
Yes, Ambassador, we touched earlier on the economic growth spurt that the country has gone through over the last decade, and I think there was 18%, Natasha said. But yet the country relies mainly still on diamonds and petroleum. Could you tell us what the government is doing and the private sector to diversify the economy at this point in time?
Yes, very much so. I think the country, as you know, it has a very vast soil area for agriculture. Angola is basically an agricultural country. And Angola used to be one of the main producers of coffee just before the war. Angola used to be sometimes the third largest coffee producing country. And that coffee was produced basically in plantations, but also in small plots by peasants. So those peasants are agriculture, they are farmers. So Angola is doing a lot to push with the farming sector, with the agricultural sector, and developing programs for irrigation, again as a soil, to combat soil erosion, and this is something which takes some time. You have also mentioned that Angola has a lot of landmines. Yes, unfortunately most of those lands have been infested with landmines, so it has a very vast program to clear landmines first. Clear landmines, reinstall the peasant population, and assist with programs which includes again microcredit for the production of most of what we are right now a good deal importing.
When you mentioned agriculture, in this particular case coffee, are there any other agriculture production niches that have been developed by the country where Angola is trying to maybe compete worldwide?
No.
Or
compete not yet, but at least to become a bit more self-reliant, mainly the food. Angola, the main food crop in Angola, there are two actually, I would say. In the northern part is cassava. On the southern part, central highlands, is maize. So Angola is trying to become more and more self-reliant on the production of the foods, and try to then export sugarcane. Angola has already started programs to bring back the production of sugarcane and going into the production of alcohol and then derivatives of sugarcane. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And the next question will be a little bit about poverty, which is a big issue everywhere in the world. And Angola, there is about 40% of population that lives on the poverty line. So how is the Angolan government dealing with it? Are there any special programs to help the poor?
Yes. Well, poverty is still a real problem. And it is a problem mainly, I would say, mainly in the cities. Angola has become very much of a urbanized country. Population have moved from the rural areas into the cities with the war. Now the problem is how to develop programs in the cities to exactly combat poverty with I would call programs based on a ration, similar to what there is in Brazil. The basket,
the solidarity
cards and all the rest. These programs are going on, financed basically by the government and the NGOs, which are also very active in Angola. NGOs, church-related and just civil society-based, and the programs have produced some results, but the main program is based on what the government is doing to move the population from the cities to the rural areas, reinstall the population in the rural areas with the service, mainly education and health for the poor, and try to see if then production programs can be fully implemented so that it raises the diet of the population.
And now when you mentioned that moving the urban population back to the village and rural areas, there is then the challenge of infrastructure, because a lot of infrastructure has been damaged during the war, right? And of course, always in rural areas, the education is a challenge. Yes. So how is that being dealt with?
Well, it's been one of the main programs which was initiated immediately with the peace program, I would say, lasted from 2002 to up to 2012. During the 10 years which Angola has had, the road program, roads, building, the bridges, dams, right, and irrigation, schemes have been the main pillars of this. In other words, you have to build the roads, first the main roads and then the secondary roads into the village. I would say most of the main roads into the main capitals in the provinces have been, already rebuilt. This is being done again using both the labor force based on the ex-military who have been transformed into road builders right now, plus the international participation. I'm talking about companies, major companies from Portugal, from Brazil, from China, and even some coming all the way as far as Canada for rebuilding dams and all the rest. No, the country is doing well.
Yes, we've also noticed in the information on your country that there is a lot of exports to China, the United States, also India, Canada, and there is a lot of commercial and also I would say help ties with the United States, Canada, China, Brazil. So could you comment a little bit about Angola's international ties and relationships and how they have been beneficial to
Angola?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Angola has been very much linked to the United States in as far as one of the major products that we have, oil. Even during the war times, oil never stopped flowing to the United States. The United States has been the primary importer of Angolan oil, and only later came in some of the others. In other words, there is also Angolan oil being exported to Europe, to Brazil, and of course to China. China is a growing partner to Angola, importing a good deal of oil with the hunger for energy that country has.
Yes.
And but there are, I would say, there are not really Chinese operating companies in as far as the oil sector is concerned. Angola is based its petroleum production on the measures. The measures are there. You have your your Gulf Oil, then Texon, your BPs, your Total, all of them are operating in dollar. There is a major state, yes. The main partner to the majors is the Angolan company, which is Sonangol, which has been in existence since about 1970, immediately after independence. Yes, is a main concessionary and also is involves in production in a sharing type of programs, cost sharing type of programs, yes.
And then Angola has also received grants and loans and aid from these countries as well. Has that been instrumental to the development? Is this still going on?
Yes, yes.
In what areas?
Mainly for the infrastructure programs, for the dams, for the roads, for the bridges, for the housing programs.
Right.
This is based mainly on the loans or grants which have been, insured from some of the major companies. I would say, with the Chinese right at in about 10 years ago, there was the first loan of about $2 billion, which has been expanded into 3, into 4 billion with more programs. These are going chiefly for the rehabilitation of the infrastructure, the dams, the roads. So it is investment. That's the type of investment that the country needed to sort of bring it back to its full potential.
Thank you so much, Margaret.
My next question touches climate change, of which no country is immune.
Yes.
And so in Angola, there's issues of soil erosion and desertification. I just wanted to know what the government was doing to mitigate the effects of climate change, particularly in regards to agricultural production, which is major there.
Well, the country has a very vast program of water management and soil management. We have the southern part of the country is very much desert, with drought, and with that program, the country had to go through a very, I would say the major program for irrigation is in the province of Huila, which just borders the southern province and the eastern part of the western part, which is the dry area. So to mitigate the effects of soil, of the climate change, the government has engaged in these major programs through the Ministry of Environment, which is a very active ministry. Mm-hmm. We are also doing. I would say that right now there is one very large program involving the 3 countries on the southeastern border of the country, with Zambia, with Namibia, and Angola. This is the idea is to create there some kind of a big belt to protect against the environment and to protect something which is very dear to all of us, which is the Okavango streams, to keep them as a tourist type of attraction, the wildlife,
the biodiversity,
the wildlife.
and
So
the wildlife,
exactly.
and develop tourism.
Tourism,
right?
yes. So the country is doing quite a bit on this. There is also in the north, again, as you know, Angola on the north is mainly rainforest. With Congo and Gabon, we are involved in a major programs for the promotion of this biodiversity area, which is very important for the for the entire world, to keep the big Mayombe program intact and protected from the environment. Well, the bad part of the environment, which is sometimes yes. Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about health challenges. So there is a very high infant mortality rate, and also the life expectancy is quite low. So what are the health challenges, and how is Angola dealing with it?
Yes, the health challenges. Well, let me first cite one thing. The health programs devised by the government aim particularly at creating a more sustainable type of population growth, infant mortality, and mother protection.
Yes.
These programs have been in effect for quite some time. Again, let's mention one thing. The population sometimes, when it is in these displaced areas, is much more difficult to develop some of these programs. But with the infrastructure, the building of small clinics in the more distant areas from the main cities, the programs are having its effect. I would say that we were supposed to have our population census in 2013. Has been postponed to 2014.
It's just too hard.
Yes, it's just too hard to do it. Now in 2014, you would see that some of these numbers, some of these figures in as far as Angola will change. But again, there has been a restructuring of the entire population with movement, but it's still high. one thing that we have I would say that happened, I would say thanks to the emergency situation which we have had in the country, is a very low HIV, very low HIV. If you compare the HIV rates for some of the countries in the region, in the case of Angola, I think has been kept. And again, then that followed by a very intensive campaign and program, especially in the main cities. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. We've learned so much, and it's really exciting to hear that there are so many challenges faced at the same time with good results, and it's also exciting to hear how the economy is growing, democracy is definitely improving, and I think you're also giving a wonderful example to the international community with your personal engagement with the United Nations. As you mentioned, you've been here for
11 years.
11 years. So it's been a long time. You've made many friends, and right now you are also the Vice Chair of the General Assembly. So thank you for all of that, and we are delighted to have been able to talk to you today.
It's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, again, today is one of those days in which one has to run from one to the other events, meeting to the others, but I look forward, continue this engagement with you. In a more relaxed manner. Maybe next time we can, yes, have lunch. Today we couldn't do it.
Right.
And, and then, of course, to the Dominican Republic. And then going to the Dominican Republic has something very in common with Angola, which I think is worth mentioning. Is, your music. Dominican Republic music is very much appreciated in Angola.
Oh, is it known? Is it well known? It's danced.
It's danced. The merengue is very much danced in Angola and played by our artists.
Wonderful.
So maybe what we need to do is also exchange some of those. Let's have some of those, some of these good cultural exchange programs, which again is a matter of bringing people together, and people are the measure.
Yeah, music is the universal language.
It's universal language. That's common universal language.
Dance as well.
Dance as well. So we look forward to seeing also that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming to visit.
It's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, we couldn't do longer, but I think that only gives us an opportunity to do it next time.
To continue.
To continue. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Global Roundtable, organized by the Global Foundation for Democracy and Development. Today we had the pleasure of talking to the Ambassador of the Republic of Angola, Mr. Ismael Gaspar Martins. Thank you.